Good morning and welcome to MH Warrior TV. Yeah, you're probably going to be sick of seeing me as I was only on last night. Now, but hey, this is how our TV guide's scripted. So, we together, me and my wonderful guest who I've been absolutely looking forward to all month since I actually booked him in. He's all the way from Australia. I don't know whereabouts, but he is called Paul Wiiliams, and you must remember him from quite a bit when he came on with Sharon Tremello. Now, I thought I had to bring him back, and there's one major question I am going to ask him, but that's going to be near the end to originally who my then co-host was going to come on, Steve Knapp. I know he's going to be tuning in at some point, so let's just see what happens. And all I have got to say is we are going to raise your vibrations today. What we mean by that, we'll see you shortly. Good morning, Paul.
Morning or evening here in Australia.
I'll meet you halfway. I'll say afternoon then. Thanks for actually coming back. That's just absolutely amazing.
It's a pleasure to be back with you.
You're most welcome. And for everyone that's going to be tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and please follow us on Facebook, Mental Health Warriors. Now, raising the vibrations. Before I actually dive into that, I want to know about who Paul Wiiliams is and how you found the talent and the conscious mind to find your vibration.
Well, definitely. I'd love to explore that with you.
Yeah.
I want to open by saying, and I think this will be applicable to your audience, I have also had my own mental health struggle. And I think that is a place where I started. You know, I was moving through depression and anxiety, and I was really searching for a way of finding remedy on how to cope and survive with, you know, a form of mental illness. And it led me through a real questioning journey. You know, what is life about? Why am I experience this darkness, this dark night of the soul? So I really went on an exploration to find the answers that would bring about remedy to my suffering, so to speak. So it led me down the way of, I guess most people would be familiar with the self-help path.
Yeah.
I read as many books as I could on how to work with the mind, how to question my thoughts, how I looked into meditation and different practices that would assist in that journey. And that's what essentially it's been. It's been a journey with lots of ups and downs. But now I really have a passion about applying what I've learnt and sharing really with other people on how they can lift from what I call low vibration, which you might, you know, in mental health terms, you might want to say, you know, depression, even anxiety is products of low vibration. How we can lift ourselves out of that and into a higher state of consciousness where we can start to think more positive thoughts, more affirming thoughts. We can view ourselves differently. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, the mental health struggles go away, but it just gives you a really good coping mechanism on how you can go through having some of those more negative thoughts that do come up. Even for me in this time, I still have my bad days.
Don't we all? That's what makes us human.
It does. And I think it's good to note that even with us that is working with people, we still go through, the difficult and challenging times. So that's not to discourage people, but it's to kind of give people a gauge that we never arrive. We're always on a journey. We're always moving through. And it's giving people the tools when they do have the down times of how to get through them.
Absolutely. That just brings me to my first question is, what does mental health, because we all know what it is, and I believe the best it doesn't matter what book you read, what research you do, who you speak to, the best person to know their own mental health is themselves. So that's where I ask is, what does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, wonderful question, Adam. I think for me, it was, I recognized in my own family, even at an early age, probably before we even had those terms for it, there was a somewhat suffering within the family. I had a great grandmother that she never really left the house. And it was always sort of, I wonder why that she is sort of locking herself away. And it wasn't until years later that I realized it was a long-term mental health issue. And then I see all the same sort of patterns emerge with my parents and even siblings. So I recognized that there was something probably in the genetic code of the family that was maybe hereditary. And I think for a lot of us, we do have a hereditary element to it. So I think there are many different factors of why people suffer with it. I think, for me, that's certainly probably the case. But it doesn't mean, this is a wonderful thing about, learning to liberate. We have so many tools in this day and age of how we can really not only cope with, depression, anxiety, but how we can overcome and thrive with still having the condition. Because I wouldn't say it's totally been eradicated from my life. It's almost like learning to live with something and learning to use it in the best possible way that you can. And I certainly do that with helping people with their own journeys.
Absolutely. And this is why we can't stress enough is when we come across people saying, oh, I beat mental health, I've overcome mental health. I'm like, no, you haven't. All you've done is stabilized it.
Yeah.
That's all you've done. I don't think we will ever beat. There's no cure for mental health.
I tend to agree with you. I definitely do. And that's not a defeatist statement. I think it's like, I always say to people I work with, it's kind of like, if you've got a leg that, has issues or a heart that has certain issues, generally speaking, without, huge medical intervention, it's most likely you're going to be dealing with that condition for most of your life. So it's learning to accept it as a part of who we are and try to use it to, one, obviously not be overcome by it, but then how can you use it to actually destigmatize the whole issue and help other people in their own journeys? I think that has been the greatest thing for me, is using it as a platform to actually help others know that they're not alone in this, that there's a lot of us that are going through this and it's a part of who we are.
I totally agree. And you mentioned about a body part, and obviously I can remember over 10 years ago, I actually injured my back because obviously I was in college and obviously I was playing football, or as Americans say, soccer. And obviously, I was a goalkeeper, and of course, I was diving around like there's no tomorrow, and I damaged my back. And for years on end, my focus was that pain. And if your focus is on that pain, you're going to get irritated. You're going to be impatient. But if you can transform your mind away from that pain and focus on something positive, you're going to deal with it. And right now, yeah, I've got twinges in my back, but I'm focused on something else, which is more important. And that's what people need to do.
Yeah, really good point. I think, the more we focus on something,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the the energy around it really expands. So, you're focused on your depression. Your depression's going to be out of control. But when you're focused maybe on helping another person, then all of a sudden you're transmuting that pain or suffering and you're bringing it meaning. And I often feel so much better when I work with a client or when I do an interview like this. Immediately, if I'm in a low state or I'm feeling down, I immediately feel uplifted because I feel like it's being used in a positive sense. So I think it's a great point, is to recognize that just because we're going through something doesn't mean we need to be kept down and hindered by it.
Absolutely. And obviously, I want to say hello, Kerry, who's literally right above me. We've got Sandy and Melissa all the way from Australia, so fellow Aussies to you. and obviously, Melissa put, so true, Adam, focusing on things that don't serve you give you a very different outcome and experience.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and obviously, Sandy's put adjust and adapt.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Adapting to the conditions of it. And it is a journey. Journeys have different phases. And, when I first, at a young age, recognized that, mental health was an issue for me, I didn't really have many tools back then.
No.
But as I progressed on my journey, that toolkit has expanded enormously. And that has expanded so much so they can actually help others with their own journeys. And that's, I think, the most rewarding part of this whole thing is the ability to take eyes off self and to put those eyes on another being and help them maybe unlock some of the keys to freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously that takes me to wanting to ask, and if it's all right with you, I want to talk about how you came across those struggles with mental health or mental illness, however people want to brand it. To me, it's just a label. It doesn't change our identity whatsoever. I still see the amazing Paul Wiiliams next to me anyway, so there you go.
Oh,
So how did you come across, and what was your response and mindset to when you first was branded this label?
Yeah, well, it was probably in school. I had a difficult time at school. I was quite introverted when I was young. So I was a really shy person. I didn't really ever feel comfortable in social settings. And we get labels along the way and we realize what certain things are. I realized recently what that actually was social anxiety.
Wow.
So, and it's actually something, I was out on the weekend last weekend and I was in a social setting and I realized, okay, going into it, I gave myself permission that it was okay that in that large group that I was going to be in, that I was going to feel a little bit awkward.
Yes.
I wasn't going to be quite comfortable, maybe not myself. I was going to stay back from the crowd. And I'm allowing myself these days to be okay with that. I might be not the life of the party or the one that is orchestrating conversation. But, I can engage and I can still be in an uncomfortable situation and allow myself to be in that moment. So that's probably a good example of that, is to just I think you're right. Sometimes we put a lot of labels on things, and we can sometimes let those labels define us. I think it's important to not be defined. Certainly with shyness for me, for example, I don't let that hold me back from communicating and helping
Yes.
people. It doesn't mean that I don't feel the uneasy sensation or emotion, but it means it doesn't control me. And that's
Right.
important, I think.
Yeah, and it all goes back to that fear as well. And obviously with you approaching this social group, and obviously saying that you're going to feel that little bit of uncomfortableness, um, it's going back to what I said earlier about choices. Now we have all got a choice, and if we're subconsciously telling ourselves this don't feel right, I feel uncomfortable here, that's your mindset telling you that. That's not us telling ourselves that. But it's going back to that positive and negative. But I always believe now, and I've learned this recently, is to conquer, and you can overcome a fear, conquer a fear. To conquer a fear, you must face the fear.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing as you were saying that, Adam, is the biggest thing that we can do when we're in fear is to actually face the thing that we're afraid of the most. And this, I find, brings the greatest remedy to whatever it is. I mean, when we avoid any circumstance or situation, we only perpetuate its control over us.
Mm.
So, for example, with me, I recognized when at a young age I was really shy. So I avoided all social situations. So what happened was my communication skills would diminish. I wouldn't put myself in social situations. I would stay very much reclusive. And it wasn't until I decided that I was really going to make a huge shift in my life. I was going to really want to help people. And of course, to help people, you actually have to be with people and put
Yeah.
yourself out there into social settings. So I remember when it was about, a few years back when these video conferencing and Zoom came along and
Yeah.
online presented itself. And I remember just the first video or two that I did, I was
Mm.
just horrified it felt uncomfortable. It was awful. I didn't like what I heard and saw on camera, and I just really didn't want to do it. But then it was through facing it and just saying, right, this is something I'm going to overcome. I have the power
Yeah.
to transmute this. And now, I jump on these things and I don't actually give it a second thought. I just do it. And I
Absolutely.
think that is the important thing. I mean, didn't Nike label that slogan many years ago? Just do it. I
Yes.
really like that one. And by doing it, it doesn't mean that the awkwardness completely dissipates. There's still somewhat of uncomfortableness there sometimes, but I do it anyway. And I do it, and you're always going to critique and wish you'd said something that you didn't and maybe used a word, whatever. But it's the fact that you're doing it, and it's the fact that you've overcome something that you were so afraid of before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I say, and I've even said this to my kids from time to time as well, where when they're coming out with all these words saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm like, right, okay, see that, because it all links back to law of attraction. Because law of attraction never sleeps, it's there 24/7 working. And I brand our mindset and the actions we take like a driving test, where when we're saying all these words, that's a theory. But to do the actual test, action, because action speaks louder than words.
Yes. Yeah, totally agree. And I'm glad you brought up the law of attraction because I think this is a
Mm.
great tool for people to use. That essentially what we learn in it is that we have power over the words that we speak,
Yes.
the thoughts that we think, and that we can actually pivot and create our reality. I think we're all powerful creators. And even if someone was to say, my life is terrible and this always happens to me, and they're the victim personality, they're creating that reality for themselves. And I
Yes.
did this for years of my life. I created myself as the hermit, as the awkward person socially, the introvert, the shy person that never really wanted to socialize and being around people. But then when I changed the thoughts and I changed the words and I changed my attitude, I'm now the guy speaking with you and your audience,
Yeah.
and we're talking about mental health. We're talking about these things really candidly, where before I would have just probably laughed at the idea. So I've created that reality, and every single one of you has that same ability
Exactly.
to change your life. You are the director, you're the actor of your story. So every day we get a chance to write the script again. And you're never really stuck, because each moment we have the power to change. And I always say that the point of power is always right here in the present moment. So we can
Absolutely.
always change whatever we want our life to
Mm.
look like.
Yeah, and couple of things to add to that, because I recently read a relationship book. Now, obviously, it does say couples relationship, but it doesn't always mean couples, and it means yourself as well. And believe it or not, and not many people realize this, but we have all got something called a self-esteem bank account within us. And if we're and I've said this to my kids as well, like recently, a few weeks ago, my son was being all negative because he didn't want to do any education work. And he was saying that, I feel stupid, I'm horrible. And I actually went along with that for a little bit. And I'm like, right, okay, now look for the opposite. And he didn't want to. I said, right, we need to introduce you to law of attraction. So I want you to say these words like "I'm amazing" and stuff like that. And he was reluctant at first, but then he kept saying "I'm horrible," "I'm stupid," and stuff like that. I'm like, right, okay, let's go along with this. Now look for the opposite. Like, what's the opposite to sad? And he went, joy. I'm like, you know what you've just done there? And he went, law of attraction. And he went, And I'm like, exactly, because that's what it does. It's their constant telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, great example of
Yes,
that. And this is stuff that kids understand as well. This isn't,
it does.
woo woo wah out there convoluted material. This is practical stuff that when we just even recognize that one thing, that the power is right here in the present moment.
Yeah.
And right in this moment, you can decide where your life direction is going to go. I've got an affirmation that I love
Oh, go on.
listening to and hearing, and I have it here, is succeed when we want to succeed, and we see that, we create that. But when we doubt, the affirmation says, doubt you're out. We
Yes.
doubt our way out of things. So I think affirmation is a good tool that I use. I don't know about you, Adam, whether that's something that you use, but I every morning when I do my meditation time, I actually say out loud a number of affirmations of things that I want to happen in my life. So an example of that is that the people I meet are friendly, kind, and loving. And I see these people wherever I go. So when I'm out and about and I'm conversing with people, or I'm buying a coffee, or I'm at a shop, I'm expecting that those people around me are friendly, kind, and loving. And what I notice is, because I affirm that every day, that most of the time, the people I encounter are friendly, kind, and loving.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we can set up the life we want, by the words we affirm, by what we believe. And you know what? In the unconscious mind, we set that up as a pattern, because if you can do this in the negative really easily. And I used to do it all the time. I expected people weren't nice, and I was afraid of, confrontational situations. So I was always expecting people to not be friendly, kind, and loving. And very often I would attract those difficult people or circumstances that were problematic, and that would be the manifestation. But now that I expect something different, most often that is what I get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to read some comments which are coming thick and fast. And Steve Knapp, who was supposed to join us today, obviously he's dealing with some personal issues at the minute. That's why he's not. But he asked me to ask you a question, and I thought, you know what, let's do this now. Would you be open to coming back on at some point on his show on Power Hour of Mindfulness, where they talk about everything to do with the mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
There you go.
Absolutely. Love
There you
to.
go, Steve. There you go. Yeah, you've got your guest. And also, my partner, Kerry, she says, when you do come back, you will be stronger than you was before.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
Yes. And obviously, we've got Shan Lu. Welcome to Warrior TV. That's the first time she's tuned in. But one of the affirmations I say to myself every single day, and Sandy, I'll get to your comment in a minute because that's really good. And I say it about 10 times a day to myself, sometimes out loud, sometimes in my head. I always say, if we can survive the war that we battle with ourselves, we can survive anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Sandy's part, one thing that doesn't make sense to me, why would you expect negative people how you expect negative people?
Yeah. Well, a lot of us do that. I used to be one of these people that would, I think what we focus on in life expands. So, an example of this, and we're going through this at the moment collectively as a society. So, this is probably a good example to use, is that, you tune into the media, mainstream media, and every headline is negative, doom and gloom and suffering, and it's going to get worse and this and that. So people collectively put their attention and focus on that. And so the whole world appears to you as a scary, unwell, negative place. But, all you have to do is just tune out of that information and then put it on, focus on some of the stuff that we've been talking about tonight, the law of attraction, changing your thoughts, minds. And then when you do that, and, I practiced this recently, I go out and I attract those people that aren't consumed by fear or at least that is my focus. So that is what I'm seeing. It's kind of like, if I was to say, tomorrow when you go out, you're going to see lots of white cars. With that thought sowed in your mind, guess what? You're going to see a lot of white cars because your focus is there. So it could be the fact that I would say most definitely that it's not going to be that there are going to be more white cars on the road. It's just the fact that you're noticing and focusing on them.
Yes.
So that's what you're going to see everywhere. So it's a good example to use, is that there's negative, there's positive out there, there's all these shades in between, but it's what we focus on what will show up in our experience.
Absolutely. And obviously we've got Maria Soul, the newest member to the Warriors. She's here. We've got a Facebook user, and he or she's put a brilliant comment, and please identify who you are. I remember being homeless, and I used the power of mind, emotions, and my words to get the exact house I see in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
I like that comment.
Yeah, beautiful and wonderful that you've come from that place. And obviously, you've done some great work. So well done.
Yeah, whoever that is.
Yeah.
I need to stress if people tuning in and it's Anthea. All right, okay. People need to register with StreamYard to tune in if they're from the if they're tuning in from the Mental Health Warriors group. Steve, he's put that's really common. If you look at a negative situation, it will generally evolve into that. So the same thing works with people. If you look for the best, you attract it back, which I totally agree.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, we really are so much more powerful than we recognize. Often we can feel victimized in life and kept down, but we have so much more power than we could ever really know. And it's when we start to use the tools, and these tools specifically around positivity, affirmation. I use meditation as well, learning to still the mind, experience the mind in a stiller form without that incessant thinking. All of those things that when we put into place, we can have a very different experience of life.
Absolutely, it really is, and yeah, please, guys, share the hell out of this because this is such a powerful, and we need people to tap into their own subconscious mind and law of attraction, and that's one of our missions in 2022 is to actually get people to do that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, Steve, it's great to check on your social media friends. If you have negative friends, it will affect your outlook on life too. As much as I want to agree with that, yes, sometimes having those little negativity in your life can actually work in can actually benefit you because obviously, the reason I do this is because of the people that brought me down, dragged me down, bullied me, abused me, and that's what I'm doing because I see those negativity experiences. I've now turned that into an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, great. And I've been there as well. I've been bullied. I was bullied for years at school for being different. Often people want to attack the group wants to attack anyone that's not like them or maybe thinks differently or looks differently. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with us. It just means that we're different. And different I have embraced now in my life. And I see it as a gift. So it's all the way we look at things. And when you were saying about negativity before, I was thinking that, we can all be that negative person.
Yes.
I've been that person many times to
Yeah.
other people. So I think giving each other permission to be the help to someone maybe when they're struggling, and they can also present that to you when you're struggling. Because I have my down days where people around me would say, oh, he's not so positive today. And then they help lift me out and remind me of what I know. So
yes. And Steve's put different is powerful. Now I'm going to retract that straight away. I don't believe we're all different. I don't. We get people saying that, but I really believe we're all unique.
yeah, great way to put that, actually. Very, we are individually unique, and no one person is the same as another. And I always think, particularly when you think about different nationalities and the way people look differently, you just go a little inch under the skin and we are all exactly the same.
Yes.
We may look a little bit different on the surface, but just go a little bit under the skin and we're almost identical. We have all the same organs, the body functions in the same way. I think this is a great reminder of when we think that we're so different, that we're, the human race is so diverse, but you just a little bit under the skin, we are all the same.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why I brought a couple of people on last night on short, hence why I'm a little bit knackered this morning because it was a very powerful live. So all please check it out after this. And it was talking about the history of surrounding mental health, which we've never done before. And obviously, I had someone from the younger generation. I had someone from the Irish community. I even had a Black African female on who obviously said pretty much similar to what you've just said, Paul. She may look different, she may act different, but in reality, we're all the same. Same journey, same journey.
Yeah. And, to destigmatize mental health, I believe, and, I don't have the exact statistics on it, but I think it's so much more common than we probably want to recognize.
Yes.
And I think, even people I've known during this pandemic have said, look, I have never faced any mental health issues before. But it was when I was in lockdown, when I had restrictions placed upon me, that I began to actually be alone with my thoughts. And then I started to question where I was at in life. And then that sent me in a downward spiral. And then they faced their first mental health battle. So I think certainly the times that we're living in, a lot of people have, experienced, maybe even for the first time, mental illness.
Yeah. So obviously, we all at some point felt suicidal, and I'm going to touch on a touchy topic here. For people that have not reached rock bottom, and obviously I put a disclaimer out, this ain't me to trigger anyone with the words I'm using, because there are always people to talk to at any time. But in your journey, in your experience, what does being rock bottom look like to you, feel like, and what type of mindset do you actually have when you are in rock bottom?
Yeah, really good question. Well, for me, I've to be honest, I've never fully considered suicide.
Right.
That doesn't mean I haven't had suicidal thoughts, not wanting to be alive. I know what that is like, and I know how difficult that could be. And I think, with rock bottom for me, it was days of just not wanting to get out of bed and having lethargy and wanting to stay in bed, not wanting to live, not having purpose. I think, can be debilitating. It was for many years of my life. Certainly, in my 20s, I had seasons of that, and just that dread when you wake up in the morning of it's another day, and then not having the tools to get out of that way of thinking. So I completely empathize with people, and I've worked with many people that have had substance abuse and they've hit rock bottom, or their lives have been completely torn apart through a substance like alcohol or drugs. So I know what condition people can be left in that situation. But what I am really hopeful with the human condition is that I've seen people in all of these sorts of low states of being. We talked earlier about low vibration or rock bottom's another good way of articulating that. Is I have seen some of the most people that you would want to write off and hit the lowest of the low, and they've made something of their life by changing their thoughts, by doing something about the addiction. It may be like I've seen a lot of people that have gone through Alcoholics Anonymous, and they've found that through the support of a group, like I'm sure like the Mental Health Warriors, is in that community. And with that accountability, they've actually got the tools to free themselves. So I'm a big advocate of groups like this, or other support groups that create a community. Because I think when we don't feel alone in something and we have the proper support, I think this has got to be one of the best tools at our disposal.
Absolutely, and that's what I was actually going to touch on is about community, because I want to know. Now, obviously, I say this all the time, but we've all got our views on COVID. But what has COVID actually taught you with yourself?
Yeah, great question. Well, to be honest with your audience, and I'm happy to share this, I've just recovered from COVID. I contracted it a couple of weeks ago, and fortunately enough for me, my symptoms were quite mild. I've got a good, strong, healthy immune system, and so um, I think the fear of COVID was very different to the experience of having
Yeah,
it. It was very somewhat mild for me. But yeah, I think it's a great question. Look, I think a lot of us have questioned a lot of our belief structures around going through something like a worldwide pandemic. It's obviously something as you know, a wider community we haven't been through before. So I've been through so many different so much of a journey through this experience. And what I've learned is what I value most.
right.
And that I really found was actually helping people, you know, in whatever capacity that it looks like. So during actual COVID, I wrote a book, my first book,
All
which
right.
is, you know, Transform Your Life with Meditation. And that was just and I was in lockdown when I wrote it. So I had all this time and I thought, what am I going to do? You know, I was working and so on, but I had this extra time and I thought, how can I use this time to actually help other people? And I knew that meditation, particularly going through lockdown, and we had the worst and longest lockdown here in Victoria, where
You
I'm
did.
from in Australia. So we were in lockdown when much of the world wasn't, and that was that was difficult on many levels. You know, I did struggle throughout that time. Some days did seem like, oh, this is never going to end,
Mm,
and there was a lot of negative association. So using that time to actually create something, a practice that I really believed in, which is
yeah,
meditation, to actually help. So that really helped me enormously through COVID.
absolutely. And obviously, Steve isn't that far from you then, because he's in Melbourne.
Oh, hi, Steve.
So there you go.
Neighbors.
Neighbour, so there you go. Maybe you'll be able to do a live, literally in person. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We might be neighbors. Who knows?
Are you up for that, Steve? But yeah, and I said this yesterday. Um, Obviously, we had our prime minister saying, "Stay social distance, be aware," and all that. And you know what? There's two words I have never listened to was social distance. Never,
Mm,
because I admit we've been going on for this for about 2 years now, and fair enough. The first 2 weeks, I was triggered, and I didn't. I think we was like all in the same boat where we didn't even know what was going on. But then you know what? And I admit my mental health started deteriorating. But then I gained an opportunity, and that's when the mental health warriors became. And I thought, you know what? I need to do something here. And obviously that was from advice from the late great Philip Chan, who sadly passed away last year. And he actually said, get mental health warriors grown, get it built and get it grown. And that's clearly what we've done. So I've seen it as an opportunity because we've now built a community.
yeah. And what a
And
better time to do it, hey? Like
yes, yes,
through such a, you know, worldwide event that has affected us
yes,
all individually, and particularly
absolutely,
around mental health, like we talked about earlier.
yes,
So what a great thing that can be born out of adversity. You know, I've always found in my own life is that my greatest triumphs have always arisen out of times of adversity.
yeah,
And I think this mental health warriors group is a perfect example of what can come out of a very, you know, what would be perceived as a negative situation.
I agree. And thank you for those kind words. Really, they really mean a lot. And obviously, yeah, we're not all professionals. We do have our credentials behind us, but there's one word in there: experience. And that's exactly why the mental health warriors are continuing to do what we're doing. Because with all those people that dragged us down, bullied us, negative us, even traumatized us, all we gotta say is thank you, because all them people have given us this platform to share our story. We're not scripted. We're all raw flesh on it, and we're gonna carry on this until forever.
And isn't that the best way to be, non-scripted, in the
Yes.
moment? You know,
Yes.
I do the same, you know, when I do interviews with other people as well, as I just don't like scripting
No.
anything. You know, it's letting a conversation flow, letting arise what arises, you know, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And I think that people connect with that more, you know. I think when something is overly rehearsed or overly scripted, people just don't see the genuineness in it. And I think we all seek genuine relationships, authenticity, wherever it can be found.
Yes.
And so that looks like the nature of this community, which is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, well, I don't brand the mental health warriors as a community or a group or a page. I see it as a family because, yeah,
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough. I built this, but I don't see the mental health warriors as mine. I see it as everyone's. Everyone that tunes in, whether they're live on the replay, watching in the background, because I know that they are, but it's everyone's. It's everyone's platform. We
Yeah.
are as a family. Well, I say a dysfunctional family.
Aren't we all a little dysfunctional?
We all are. We
Absolutely.
all are.
Great way to look at it. You know, I always find that, you know, when something is set up like a family and people have a sense of belonging, you know, these are most conducive of the healthiest social spaces that we can be a part of. So I love that you've branded it that.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. All I've got to say is, where do we find you and where do we find your book? Because I really want a copy now.
Yeah, well, I've actually made the book free. It's in audio form at the moment, so I can always share with you a link to that. But you
Please
can
do.
find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel. It's Paul Wiiliams Official. I do regular videos on here. I will post this interview on there and share it with my community as well. You can find me on Facebook, just Paul Wiiliams. I've got a page on there, and Instagram, Paul Wiiliams Official. So yeah, many places. I'm always putting on content and doing some interviews with people, and you'll also find on any of those platforms a link to my free audiobook as well.
Awesome, awesome. And Anthea as well. As well, you've already got one invite from Steve, but Anthea has just put, Paul, I would love to have you as a guest in my attitude and mindset show that I have on a Thursday. Will you accept?
Sure, I'd love to. Just you can message me on any of those platforms. I check my messages. So absolutely send me a message. I'd love to come on your program.
And there you go. And Steve just put hashtag Paul Wiiliams everywhere. No, yeah. So, guys, please share the. You know, I'm not supposed to swear because I'll probably get shouted at, but hey, I don't care. Please share the shit out of this. I've got my partner dancing in the living room. Oh well, who cares? She's probably excited. Anthony saying, woohoo, thank you. I'm not going to say it like a girl, can't be bothered. You are busy, Paul, as Sandy says, but hey, what do we say? And all I can say is, will you recommend the Mental Health Warriors?
Absolutely. I love what you do. Love to learn more about, the group and, be a part of it where I can. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, all you need to do is just ask and we will provide. Well, or shall I say deliver? Who knows? Right. All I've got to say is thank you to everyone that's tuned in, whether you're live on the replay. We love you all. And please share this. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go and subscribe. It's MH Warrior TV. Facebook, The Mental Health Warriors. Please go and join our group, The Mental Health Warriors private group. It's all a safe space. It is. You have no worries about anything. And we've got a team of brilliant people that's ready to help if you need help or someone to listen to. And all I've got to say is thank you, Paul. You're an absolute legend. And we will see you. Housekeeping. That's it. I forgot to say that, which my partner's laughing now. Caroline Bennis, she is live at 8 p.m. UK time with Words as Medicine, which you'll probably get invited to that as well. She's with no, it's not 8 p.m., it's 7 p.m. She's with Dr. Erin Oxel, and all I've got to say is tune in for that. See you in a bit.